Record. Okay. Should be recording.
Thank you, everybody. It's good to see so many people here still. Attendance is holding up nicely, so we'll keep it going as long as people want it to happen. A few things came out of the core team meeting this morning that we wanted to talk to you about. The first one probably is the survey that went round and people filled in. And Dennis is going to talk us through the highlights of what we found out. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you. Good morning. We've done some analysis of the data, and so what I'm going to just go through very quickly is a set of slides which we will be publishing, highlighting some of the answers to some of the questions. There was a reasonable number of people that thought they might have had COVID-19, certainly checking with First House and looking at the actual numbers. Hopefully, or thankfully, a whole stack of those people who thought they had probably didn't. There are a number of other viruses around, and that 10% figure that thought they'd had it is unreasonably high. But there are people who genuinely do believe they've got it, and now we've got a testing station at Milton, so could well have done. So, as I think we all perhaps think, we're actually blessed with a pretty low infection rate. Looking then at some of the other figures, the people who completed the survey, about a third of them said they're not normally working. That's lower. The population as a whole of the village, about half of us are working in some way or shape or form, given the 2011 census. So actually, we're underrepresenting those people. The 13% who've been furloughed and 3% have already been made redundant. And I think everybody is probably going to guess that that may well increase as lockdown unwinds. Again, hardly surprising, a lot more people are working from home. I think what we discussed during the core meeting was whether actually people working from home might actually welcome the opportunity, if not to work from work, but actually to work somewhere other than their home. Not everybody has space for an individual study or a couple of studies, though of course there are the concerns about how they handle childcare and everything else. So I think that may be something we want to follow up in a subsequent survey. And again, this is probably not surprising. Those 20%, some of those 20% are actually people who don't normally work. But obviously the majority of them are those who have either been furloughed or made redundant. But it is, the note here, this may be the tip of an iceberg. It is hardly surprising. And well, on this one, we asked people on a scale of 1 to 4. We didn't actually give an actual description of what 1, 2, 3, and 4 meant. There are a lot of people who seemingly quite positive still. The vast majority have scored a 3. Probably, I think we can all guess what that might mean, or what people assume that to mean. But actually, there's 20% of people who either reported 1 star in terms of being very depressed or 2. Again, possibly not surprising, but it's something where we need really to be helping those people, and particularly those who are very depressed. And what we're going to do next is to go back. We've got this separate set of people, around 400, who've said they're happy to be contacted again. And so what we're going to be looking for is whether their financial and health and mental position is changing, so that we can look at what we might need to do or what we could possibly do to assist them. And we're going to be publishing the results of the survey. So having gone through that, I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Nothing on the chat line yet, I don't think.
No, there's not.
I don't think anyone's got their hands up, so I don't think there's any. Oh, here we go. Here come the chats.
Okay. Chris, there were something over 700 responses. However, just over 80 of those came from outside of Histon and Impington, and 20 of them gave a postcode of CB24. Now we're assuming those CB24 are actually in the village, but CB24 could actually be outside. So certainly we've got over 600 valid results, and it may be 620, 630. As to Rowley, basically we were going to share this presentation. We're strictly controlling even the anonymized data, but we can attempt to answer questions if people want. But I think sharing the detailed data is probably not what people want. Steve, you say you're CB24, fine. There are CB24s that are outside of the village, which is why we weren't sure about those people who only said CB24.
Question from Martin Khan there.
That's an interesting one, and thank you. Yes, good point.
Yeah. Right, we'll keep the questions coming in. Thank you, Dennis. We'll move on to the next item that cropped up, which is there's still a little bit of confusion over prescriptions. So let's ask Nick Wood to tell us how the prescription service is going, and make a few comments on that. So is Nick there?
Hi, yes, sorry, I missed the preamble. I came out of signal.
Okay, let us know how the prescription service is going along at the moment.
Okay, the prescription service is going really well. We've had one person step back little bit, which is Morag, because she is.
I think we've lost your signal, Nick. No.
To help with the prescriptions. There seems to have been some confusion on around what we're doing. So people should firstly look for a friend or family to pick up their prescriptions or their street coordinator. If that's not possible, then we're there to help. So we're kind of more of a backstop than the first call. But feel free to call us. You know, anybody should feel free to call us, but please go to the street volunteers. There's no reason why fit and healthy people shouldn't be going and getting prescriptions for people. Is that clear? Does anybody have any questions, or is there any clarity needed around what we're doing?
I will re-emphasize that in the weekly report. But
okay, thanks, Don.
there were some
Don,
people suggesting that people were suggesting that the pharmacist didn't want us to go in, and what you're saying is that's not the case.
Yeah, Don,
No.
I think the confusion is the pharmacists have only got Nick's number.
No, that's not true.
No, that's not the confusion. The confusion that arose was because a resident said that he'd heard that the pharmacist didn't want people going in, and that's not the case.
Originally, the pharmacies only had my number. We then set it up with the church number 320420, which then goes through to 3 different people, not me. That goes through to 3 different people who are taking details of people and getting their prescriptions and delivering them, when a street coordinator or a friend or family can't do that.
When I spoke to the pharmacists this week, they were unaware of street coordinator's role.
Well, I'm not sure why. Okay, I don't know. I'm not sure why pharmacists would need to know that the street coordinators are doing that. The street coordinators should know that people on their street might call them and ask them for a prescription, and they are more than welcome to go and get that if they're fit and healthy, not vulnerable or shielding. If they are vulnerable or shielding, they can delegate that to somebody else they know or to the prescription hotline.
Okay, a couple of questions coming out of that. Steph Clark offering her husband. Very nice of you. I think that we have sufficient people on the prescription collection system at the moment, Nick. If that changes, then we have Steph Clark in reserve. Is that right?
Brilliant. Yes, we've got exactly the right amount of people at the moment who aren't overwhelmed or complaining. So, but yes, if we do need to scale up or replace somebody because they're going back to work or whatever, then thank you, Steph, for offering up your husband.
And Jill Waters said that she thinks the confusion arose that the pharmacist wanted fewer people in their pharmacies. I think that was the case at the outset, but that is most definitely not the case now. And the pharmacies are saying, please come and collect your own prescriptions if you're able.
Correct. We haven't heard that directly from the pharmacies, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, so that I think covers that one. We'll keep the chat coming in and deal with it if any more comes in. So the next thing is, you'll recall at previous meetings we've been talking about phoning people, particularly those who are shielded, but generally those who are isolated. And Caroline set up a pilot scheme at her end of the villages. So Caroline, would you like to talk about how that's going?
Yeah, so we had 3 pairs of people, a volunteer, befriend, and who wants to be befriended. I think one pair hasn't sort of really quite got going, but the other 2 seem to have been very, very happy on both sides. The people who've been contacted have been very happy to have a friend on the phone. So then I have also met with Paul Seekings and James Blandford Baker, and we've had a talk about how we could sort of roll this out further through the street coordinators. I did send a document to Don. I don't know whether that's going to appear on the screen or whether you'd like me to talk it through.
By all means, talk through it, Caroline, but I didn't share it because you hadn't had it agreed with Paul or James yet. So
no, okay, right. I might just have to look at it on my phone then. Hang on. No, it's going to take me ages to find it. What I'm thinking is that people seem to have frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So that the street coordinators could, if they're already aware of anyone in the street who is shielded, that they could ask those people either by phoning them if they have their phone number, or the usual sort of go to the door and jump back, whether they would ask these people whether they'd like a befriender during the time that they're still shielded. If they get a yes, then the next thing would be to try and think about people in their street or anyone nearby that they know who they think would be a good befriender. So if they know somebody to who is sympathetic and a good listener, ask them if they would like to be a befriender, and then ask them whether they would like to contact the person directly, or whether they would rather the street coordinator sort of does some kind of introduction. In other words, give their name to the person wanting to be befriended. In the pilot study, I found that the people who were befriending were very happy to phone someone they didn't know, but somebody who had given their phone number and was waiting for a call. But in certainly 2 of the cases, those people were not very happy for their number to be available to the person being befriended. They didn't know whether they didn't know this person. This person might be somebody who would ring them up in the middle of the night or ring them 10 times a day. So what we decided was that they could, what I suggested is they could put dial 141 before they ring the number, and that means that the number comes up as private number, just maybe for the first couple of times until they've got to know each other. And then it's also really up to the befriender and the befriended to set their own ground rules. Please ring me once a week, or please don't ring me after 10 o'clock at night, or please don't ring me in the morning, I'm at work. So it would be sort of tailored to the befriender and the befriended, I'd say. I think that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it. Don had some thoughts about whether the befriender should have a different name to distinguish them from the HI Friends scheme, which is befrienders for people with mental health problems. I don't know. I mean, it seems to me it's fairly informal. Perhaps it doesn't matter too much what the befrienders are called.
Yeah, I was just anxious to avoid any confusion, but we can take that away and work on that ourselves.
Yeah.
Do you see this potentially extending beyond the lockdown?
I think it could well do, yes. I mean, certainly 2 people, I mean, as I say, I couldn't, the shielded people in my street have got more than enough help. So I did ask 1 or 2 other people. So there are two befriended people now who are elderly. I guess they're in a long-term situation of isolation. They presumably don't have a lot of family nearby. So yes, I think it could be an ongoing arrangement.
Very good. Thank you, Caroline. There's
Okay.
no questions come up on the chat yet, so I assume everyone's happy with that. And I think those were all the points that we wanted to bring up from the core team today. So over to you, volunteers and coordinators, anything that you would like to raise and ask a question about? And if there isn't, then we'll have a record short meeting.
Yeah. Well, if we can finalise this document, I mean, I wonder if it's something we could email out to the street coordinators so they've got some sort of tips and idea to look at before they embark on it.
Yeah, I've read the document and I think it's fine, but I wasn't one of the co-authors, so the co-authors need to be happy with it, and then I'd be very happy to distribute it.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
Right, well, if there's nothing else that people want to talk about, then we'll call the meeting closed, and that's 26 minutes. That's very well done. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Don. Well done. Take care.
Bye.